Father, is it over?
I said no, nigga, no!
We still have one more mission.
What?
Well,
How you doing, you crazy, wonderful mad lads? Your Dragonslayer has returned, and look, I don't want to do any unnecessary time padding like the second half of this Witcher season is done, so all I'm going to say to you is that I hope you are entertained by this rapid-fire review of 3 episodes that will save you 3 hours of your life, and that if you enjoyed it, to please do what you're seeing on screen right now, because it lets YouTube know that people are interested in the topic of this show.
Fun and good for your health.
Anyway, let's get straight into it and figure out why this show is more desolate of viewership than a nuclear wasteland, shall we? Alright, so we pick up right where we left off with Dijkstra telling Geralt that he's going to be the Redanians' captive until they finish their business of killing the Nilfgaardian mage sympathizers of the Conclave, and because I guess he knows that Yennefer will somehow escape, he decides to comply with his demand with the same tired face that a parent makes when their insufferable child begs them to buy a new toy. You know, this does make me wonder if the showrunners were even aware of how little Henry Cavill cared anymore about being in the show.
Well, they're aware of it, they just don't give a
Moving on, Yen decides to escape using a secret magic passageway so she can find Ciri, and then we get a scene where our strained gay lovers Jaskier and Radovid bicker about their pointless relationship because he was planning to kidnap Ciri, but that never happened because she was already gone, and apparently Jaskier had absolutely no idea she slipped out while they were having their argument.
it's stupid! It's stupid!
However, no one cares about Jaskier at this point in the story, so we jump back to Geralt being stuck in a room with all our main and disposable characters, where for some fucking reason Philippa thinks it's a great idea to not chain Tissaia with the anti-magic shackles because she thinks that her words of reason will overcome this woman's unbridled lady boner for Vilgefortz, and let's just say that her lack of oversight is what forced this to happen.
Death to Redania.
Isn't that a rash, Geralt?
You damn.
Alright, so to speed through a ton of disjointed scenes that apparently are supposed to be connected, Dijkstra finds out that their reinforcements are not coming, and that the Scoia'tael with Francesca are also going to join the slaughter party, but the mages start fighting the traitor mages and their Redanian allies, and meanwhile Geralt decides to have a small little scuffle with Dijkstra while breaking his arm at the end, but then we have this big reveal scene where Tissaia finally finds out that Vilgefortz is a terrible person in the most direct breakup quote I've ever heard in a fantasy show so far.
This is your home. I don't care who sacks it. I have my own aims, and they no longer include you.
God damn. That's cold, sir.
Okay, so the rest of the episode is basically just a bunch of fight scenes of the mages, elves, and Redanians killing each other. Tissaia goes insane from the grief of realizing that she was Vilgefortz's toy all along by just doing a spell that drains her life force in order so she can zap every enemy into oblivion. Francesca's husband gets turned into mush because he was trying to protect her from some Rasengan attack Tissaia launched at her. Yen almost gets killed by the disfigured telepathic lady until Triss saves her by killing her, but then Yen and Ciri almost get finessed by Rience in a fight until this happens.
Wait a minute!
Just stop! Just stop it! Stop! No! Just stop it!
A few moments later.
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with y'all? You niggas are crazy!
Yeah, so I did some, surface level researching for this bit on how Rience died, and apparently this man was killed later in the books by Ciri's hand, but I guess the showrunners didn't think that section of the books had a high enough level of female empowerment. Am I right, guys?
You're all a bunch of hypocrites.
Anyway, to get back on track, a lot of mages die. Ciri has her long-awaited fight with Tahir, who ends up losing to her, but she spares him because she is a better person than him, I guess. Dijkstra almost gets shanked by an alcoholic mage until Philippa saves him by clawing the alcoholic mage to death as an owl, which ends up in both of them escaping. Yen goes back to the tower to save Tissaia from deleting herself via chaos magic overload and succeeds. Stregobor decides to go out like a true true grand wizard by using all the fire magic he can get his hands on to kill as many elves as possible, and then we have an okay fight scene between Vilgefortz and Geralt that does end in Geralt getting his butt whooped because Vilgefortz caught him off guard, and I do have a pet peeve that I'll mention later, but first let me show you this.
Okay, keep going.
Delivering ass whoopings.
Disappointed!
Alright, so the issue I have with this fight is that throughout the entire sequence, Geralt never tries one single time to cast a Quen sign to at least protect himself from Vilgefortz's shockwaves to at least make this one-sided battle seem more believable in the sense that this mage caught a Witcher off guard and beat him up badly while leaving him to die to teach him a lesson. Now look, I am not a book fan, and from the research I did, which is very small, it seems that in the books, Vilgefortz beats Geralt by fighting him without using his magic at all, but of course the writer does this to finally give the, as to this moment, powerful fighter Geralt a character growth moment in the story so he can change for the better in order to find and protect Ciri from worse dangers down the line.
Dude, that's awesome!
Alright, pet peeves over. So what else happened in this episode? Well, the last 4 minutes are basically of Ciri walking up to the top of that big tower in Aretusa, and she finds out that there's this big, scary, demonic crystal on it, dude, and she uses her power to just release an evil entity that even Vilgefortz is afraid of because, fuck it, why not, dude? I totally don't see this backfiring in any possible way, dude.
Now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready?
Ready!
Other than that, Geralt gets saved by Triss, Francesca, and Fringilla's group flee the island, and Yen with her group looks out in terror at the fact that the tower in their homeland has been ransacked, but other than that, this is where the episode ends.
You serious?
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this, but I'm bringing back that individual episode rating bit from the first video, so the rating for this episode is a 4 out of 10 because we got to see Geralt fight a decent villain finally, and because for once in this show we had a decent couple of fight scenes and plot points that were more aligned with the books. However, this still doesn't excuse the fact that you force your viewer to watch 5 boring or severely flawed episodes just to get a 48-minute fighting episode.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Oh man, I don't even know how I'm gonna be able to make this episode feel entertaining, but I'll give it my best shot, guys. Now, for some reason, this episode decides to cut out the very beginning of Ciri's story in 2, so I'm just going to get her story out of the way since it's the one that uses up the most runtime, so please stick with me because I can guarantee you will be extremely surprised how a group of writers even approved this as an entire episode.
It's a dumpster fire.
Anyways, Ciri wakes up in the middle of the Sahara Desert to find out that she was teleported there by the shattering of the crystal that she idiotically released, and after popping her broken arm into place, she ends up wandering the desert trying to find a way back home. Now, does this sound fun yet, guys?
I hate this generic stuff.
However, all that ends up happening is that she starts going insane with hallucinations of her mother, grandmother, and a mad genocidal ancestral queen named Falca that tell her that she is a dumb bitch who deserves everything she is getting right now for not listening to people, and that if she was more brave in embracing her destructive powers, then she would be able to accomplish her goal of saving the world from the cycle of brutality it now finds itself in. But all those intrusive thoughts get interrupted by this wonderful stud unicorn lad who apparently the cameraman has a thing for because every chance he gets to, he needs to show us his majestic dangling ball sack.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Regardless, our unicorn stud tries to help her get out of the desert by taking her to a water spring where his ball sack is showcased from a distance, but he also takes her to a food source where she eats an innocent lizard bystander's children and then beats the shit out of it as a way to therapeutically take out her anger on someone smaller than her.
I see you, little
Damn! Crazy ass.
Now that we've been shown such a riveting sequence, our dynamic duo ends up getting attacked by this crustacean desert spider monster that ends up poisoning our unicorn stud, and out of anger for killing her food and water GPS, Ciri tries to pass judgment on this impudent unicorn-hating bug with the way of the caveman.
What the f is this? I don't know.
How the hell did she do that?
Don't ask.
After dispensing justice, Ciri becomes distressed by the fact that the unicorn stud is dying from the poison, and this is when the evil spirit of that Falca lady decides to invade her mind and tells her that she needs to use chaos magic in order to save the unicorn stud, and like the gullible idiot she is, she decides to use it anyway without thinking of the possibility that the evil spirit wants to use this situation in order to invade her mind so she can turn her into a genocidal maniac. But she is able to use that magic to save the unicorn stud, and then it decides to run away from what's about to unfold, because guess what?
You'll always be their pawn. Feel the pleasure of release.
What the f, bro? You idiot!
You'll always be their pawn.
I don't believe you.
I don't want it. It's a prophecy. Please stop. I'm relinquishing my powers.
You what?
What's the point of all this?
You two pick her up.
That's it?
That's it. That's it.
Thank God.
But wait! There's more! Of course!
Oh yeah, there's like 10 minutes left of this episode I almost forgot to cover, but basically it goes like this. Jaskier finds out Yennefer is alive and finds out from Radovid that the second war with Nilfgaard has begun, while giving the prince the location of a safe house he can stay at so he can successfully escape back to Redania? What?
Are you serious right now?
After recovering my mental HP from that unexpected idiotic plot point, we return to Jaskier, also finding out that Geralt was saved from certain death by the Dryads who are nursing him back to health, and goes there to tell Geralt the news about the new emerging war, but also that Emperor Emir has announced that Ciri has been captured and is being returned to Nilfgaard, which really pisses Geralt off, and that's how this episode ends.
What the was that? Okay?
Yeah, if you've been listening to my description of this heavily time-padded garbage, I'm sure you will understand why I'm giving this episode a 2 out of 10, but just so you can be more amazed, I would like to let you know that the entire episode without the end credits is about 47 minutes. Do you know how long the series story I just summarized is? 37 minutes!
What did he say?
Yeah, what took me a few minutes to summarize, which I'm sure my editor Boxman will slap on the total duration of the episode summary somewhere on the screen, took the show 37 minutes to show their viewers. If the writers were any good, they would be able to do that in half the time and gotten people interested in this episode rather than bored out of their minds, because the story really drags on for so long that I start thinking about watching something else just to sate my boredom.
Oh, that's bad. That's bad.
Also, why the hell did they have to stress the time so much? Not every episode in a TV show has to be exactly 45 to 50 minutes long if the plot point you're trying to explain doesn't require it.
You f***ing donut!
Anyway, let's move on to the last one, alright?
What did he say?
You know how I just finished talking about unnecessary time padding in episode 7?
Yeah?
Well, they did it again, except worse by turning what should have been a 40-minute episode into a 1-hour episode for shits and giggles. But then they go the extra mile by doing the dirty trick Rings of Power's first 5 episodes did by constantly darting around their audience to show short scenes of various different stories in order to give the panoramic illusion that the world they're showing is alive, but all that they're showing you is that the world is disjointed and is going to give you extreme nausea because you won't know what to focus on since you have no idea which part of the story is the most important one, because they're all equally important, so you just automatically give up on the futile endeavor of giving a shit about the show's plot.
Holy shit.
This is absolutely correct!
Moving on, all you really need to care about is that Geralt gets nursed back to full health with the help of the Dryads, Jaskier, and Yennefer, which then leads to him preparing for the journey to Nilfgaard, and on the way he kills some Nilfgaardian soldiers because he's really angry about losing to Vilgefortz, but then tells the surviving soldier to run straight to Emir to warn him that he is coming for his unthreatening ass.
That sounds about right.
As for Yennefer, she talks to Euron Greyjoy's multiverse alter ego about the situation of Ciri returning to Nilfgaard, but then a little bit later on, she, Tissaia, and the surviving sorceresses find Vilgefortz's abandoned hideout where they see the flesh monster Geralt slayed, and through their use of magic, they finally see the monster Vilgefortz truly is, and after burying the girls, Yen makes the decision to rebuild the Order and bring Vilgefortz to justice for his crimes, and a depressed Tissaia, despite Yen's pleas, thinks it's completely futile to do anything anymore, so she writes a self-deletion note while proceeding to do the act that completely destroys Yen emotionally.
Gosh, this is so depressing.
After that, she decides to leave in order to find Geralt, and with her magic is able to speed up his full recovery as mentioned earlier, but then she returns again to the sorceresses and gives them a speech that's summarized as, "We need to woman the hell up because everybody is dead and we're the only ones alive that can restore the Order and give Vilgefortz a good old northern butt whooping."
Hell yeah!
As for the rest of the story, King Vizimir tries to pressure Dijkstra into accusing Philippa as the one responsible for the failure of the operation at Aretuza, or to willingly himself in order for the king to save face with the court, but Philippa already had a contingency plan in place for the situation, which ends up working quite effectively, might I add.
That'll do.
After that, Dijkstra and Philippa install Radovid as their puppet king and use the excuse that Nilfgaard sent an assassin to kill his older brother as retaliation in order to use him for their future schemes against Emir in the coming war.
There, easy as pie.
As for Emir, he tells Fringilla and Francesca to submit to him as the future ultimate ruler of the continent, while telling Francesca to forsake her Scoia'tael soldiers if she wants to keep her citizens safe from his wrath, but this ends up giving the opposite effect where now both women hold a grudge against Emir, and they almost agree to scheme against the Emperor by stealing Ciri from him in order to use her power to escape their world so they can establish a paradise away from all the conflict. However, Fringilla ruins this by telling her that Emir was the one who forced her to scheme with him in the murder of her child, which makes the crazy elf queen lady so angry that she storms off from the temple, swearing vengeance against Emir, Fringilla, and the humans for making her suffer so much.
You're not very bright, are you?
No, I'm not. I would like to be, but I'm not.
Also, Emir proceeds with the coronation ceremony with the fake Ciri Geralt saved in part 1, and then we get a shot of Ciri finally joining the rats after killing a man from a group that was going to kill her with her cover name of Falca, which leads to the end of this piece of crap show, so the rating for this one is a 2.5 out of 10.
You know what? You're absolutely right.
So, the rating for the second half of the show is a 4 out of 10. The only saving grace that it had was the scenes with Geralt in it and some of the interactions he had with Yennefer, and then the way Philippa and Dijkstra handled avoiding punishment from King Vizimir. Other than that, the second half was a big pile of garbage that the few good moments it gave were not worth the amount of negatives it provided in abundance. The writers and producers of this show are a bunch of arrogant pricks who think that because they're adapting an extremely popular fantasy IP, they can just do whatever they want with it and expect the fan base to just eat it up like it's the best thing after sliced bread. Well, you know what I think?
You.
Wasting fans' time with ridiculous time padding, badly choreographed scenes for the most part, and more interest in making socio-political points rather than adapting the story the best way you can possibly do is why nobody wants to watch your piece of excrement show anymore. It's not Americans or the current low attention span generation that's responsible for your failure. You are.
Yes! Preach!
So, all of you people responsible for this mess can fuck off to the ends of oblivion to suffer for your arrogance, and thanks to all of you who watched the video to the end. I truly appreciate you. Now, I wish you all a wonderful day, and Namaria, folks.